And I actually joined ECYD back in 1978 and Rainham Christi back in 1981. So it's always been, you might say, my blood. I love the movement. I love the Legion. I am very grateful to God for having called me to this organization. I'm very proud to be a legionary, and I'm very proud to be in the movement. So just to start with that, one thing I learned in ECYD, and one thing obviously we all learn in Rainham Christi, it's all about being a best friend of Jesus Christ, right? And I'm going to give a talk in public speaking, but if you don't love Jesus Christ, if you don't really love Jesus Christ in a sacrificial way, you may have the form, you may have the charisma, you may have the personality, but you're not going to move hearts, right? I think we all know that. And everyone who's spoken so far, I would say loves Christ. I live with 6 priests who love Christ. Father Stephen, and Father Donald, and Father Jason, and Father Edward, and Father Stephen, and it's an incredible community to see their sacrifice, their love for Christ, and when they speak, I listen because I know there's authenticity behind it. Right? So it's important to start with that, to be authentic. I was just with a woman who was at the Mass at Madison Square Garden, and I asked her, what did you think of the Mass? What did you think of the Pope? She said, you know, Father, I really wasn't listening to the Pope. I was just looking at him, and he's so holy, he's so good. And sometimes we focus too much on our words, and we forget we've got to be holy, we have to be good. That's what's going to move the person. I'm not saying public speaking doesn't matter. It does. We need to be sharp pencils, but we need to remember we're pencils. I remember being in Cheshire here for my spiritual exercises back in 1987. Father John Walsh preached the exercises, very holy priest, and at the end, I told him, Father, there was an amazing retreat. I just made my profession. I'm ready to conquer the world. I can't wait to get out there. And he looked at me and he said, Brother Michael, you're a donkey. You are a donkey. And I said, Father, what do you mean? He said, you're not the protagonist. It's not you. You're not going to conquer the world. You're carrying Jesus Christ. He's going to conquer the world through you. Never forget that. And I haven't forgotten that. And God has made sure to remind me of that. God chooses the weak and makes them strong. That's a phrase that's always helped me. I'm standing here at the podium as someone who absolutely abhorred, hated, dreaded, feared public speaking. You might think, Father, no way, you're just saying that. I mean, it's so easy for you. It's so natural. It's not. And now it is. When I was a kid, I almost passed out at this podium when I was in 5th grade. I was standing in front of the whole school. My sister was a teacher. I was supposed to read this paragraph, and I just kind of went like this. And I walked off the stage. And I couldn't do it. I was just so nervous. And I was worried about that for like 2 weeks. And I think there's a reason why public speaking is the greatest fear among men. We don't like doing this. If I asked you, how many of you would like to come up here right now and speak? Maybe a handful, but I don't think people would be, Father, let me go. I want to do it. I want to be up there. It's hard. God chooses the weak and makes them strong. And sometimes the best public speakers are the ones that least want to do it. We don't like it. Most of us don't like it. But we have a message that needs to be communicated. And I'm not going to let the message of Christ be slowed down because I'm afraid of being up here. I'm not going to prevent God's love and God's message from getting out there because I don't like doing this. We can't say that. And if any of you have that excuse, I'm a witness. Sorry, I just took it away. You need to let God work through you. And it's not about, like I said, your personality or your charisma or, Father, I'm kind of shy or I stutter or I don't know. I mean, I just get really nervous. Okay, are you holy? Do you love Christ? Just get up here and just communicate that. Don't get caught up in all this other stuff. All these things, the hands, the form, I'll talk about that. It's great, but communicate it from the heart. Do you love Christ? Share it. Share it. Heartfelt communication with a sincere desire to serve and meet the needs of your audience. That's what matters. Heartfelt communication. When I'm standing up here, I really don't care what you think about me. And I'm not saying that to be obnoxious. I really don't. I'm standing up here because I want to give a message that's going to help all of you in your life to be an effective witness for Christ. That's why I'm up here. If I get pats in the back, if you applaud, oh, it was amazing, it was great, talk to the priest. We're not doing it. We don't care about that. It's not what drives us. What drives us is we want to communicate a message that's going to help. That's going to help. And ask yourself, if you have to give a talk, are you thinking about the people sitting in front of you? Are you thinking about their needs, their reality? Are you hitting buttons that matter to them? What matters to them? Their marriage, their kids, right? Their struggles, their health struggles, their anxieties, their fears. Are you giving a message that's addressing those, that's touching those? Are you using stories to communicate that message? People today, and Pope Francis has said it, we don't need heady, thick language. We don't need dogmatic, complicated words. I can impress you with my erudition and my fancy words, and that's okay. Some people are gifted, and that should be communicated to that certain type of crowd. I get that. But we need plain language, short and sweet, to the point, in a way that people can understand. And talk about stories that affected you. If I'm going to talk about forgiveness, I love talking about my older brother, Tom. My older brother, Tom, who teaching me how to play golf in the backyard with a sand wedge, received that sand wedge into his lip from me and cut his lip up to his nose, and he still has a scar. And I looked at him, I said, wow, I was in 4th grade, I can't believe I just did that. And my mom rushed him to the hospital, and he came back, and he had a black eye and a fat lip, and he's a 9th grader in high school trying to date girls, and he looks bad. And his first words were, hey, Mike, man, don't worry about it. Scar adds character. It's not a problem. It's actually, it's not a bad thing to have a little scar. And to this day, he's never said, I can't believe you did that. That's forgiveness. That's a story. It's not a concept. It's a story. It's something that happened to me. Or to think about my sister who's crippled with her fingers, shriveled up and her body shriveled up, and to see her type this 4th grade autobiography when I was a little kid, and to look at her purple and swollen fingers the next day, and to see her black eyes because she didn't sleep the night before, and to see the note she wrote, "Dear Mike, I hope this is okay, love, Dad." That's sacrifice. That's real. It's not a pie in the sky. It's not this concept. It's an experience that I had. I can communicate that with passion because I feel passionate about it. I don't need to make it up. It's me. Each one of you has life experiences you can share in your encounters. Share at the dinner table with your kids. It was really beautiful. I was with BJ at a dinner last year, and he had just came back from a funeral from one of the partners in his firm. And he talked about it. He said, hey, I just want to bring this up. I went to a funeral today. And I think it was, Catherine said, Dad, this is kind of a heavy topic. I said, well, I think we need to talk about this. And he shared his experience of being at the funeral in a very beautiful and sincere way. Made his kids think about the meaning of life. Why are we here? What's this all about? What's the point? That's public speaking. Public speaking isn't just standing up in front of 10,000 people or 20 people. It's communicating the message of Christ that the Holy Spirit wants you to communicate. Right? And I think you do need to I have some points written down here. Actually wrote down a few points. And I'm trying to follow this structure. But I'm also looking at you. I'm also listening to the Holy Spirit. I'm also trying to figure out, am I missing something? Is this resonating? Is it not resonating? It's an act of service. It's an act of love. I think some practical tips that might help, I would say, to not get in the way of the Holy Spirit. If you have tics, tics, just take a little tweezers and you can get them out right front, Scott. No, if you have tics, work on it in your daily speech. If you say, yeah, okay, when you're talking to people, don't do that. So when you stand up here, it's just an extension of what you've already worked on. Challenge yourself. So, Father, I've been doing this for 40 years. Paul Bernetsky, who is the head of the Boy Scouts, I think some of you know him, he's in fundraising, he gave this speech, and he said, I had to give speeches all the time, and I had all these tics, and I started working on eliminating these tics in my daily conversation, and then they just weren't a problem anymore. You don't want people to get distracted with something, right? So as an act of charity, attack it. Go at it. Try your best to eliminate it. But I do think you also have to be yourself. Father Jason is not Father Donald, is not Father Sean, is not Father Stephen. I think you all know we're all very different. Be who you are. Be the best version of yourself, Matthew Kelly, right? But be who you are. If you're not someone who tells jokes, don't tell jokes. It's not you, right? Don't force it. It sounds weird. It's like, why is this person telling jokes? He's not a joking guy. It doesn't make sense. Just be natural. I mean, when you're standing up here, you should be the same person you are when you're sitting down there, when you're at the table, when you're in the carpool. You shouldn't be different. Just be who you are. And really care about the people in front of you. Show real concern. These are people. You're not talking to the wall. You're talking to people who have issues in front of you. Show some concern and heartfelt concern. I think there's a couple questions that when I prepare my talk, I always like to ask. This is a simple structure. I use 5 questions. What is my topic? What is it? Define it. This is simple. Why is it important? We need to convince people this is important. How can we live it? In a very practical way. So, for example, what is my topic? Prayer. What is prayer? It's a conversation from the heart. It's an intimate relationship with God that we communicate with Him and listen to Him. Why is it important? It's oxygen for the soul. We need grace to keep going. We can't keep plugging away. We're not Energizer bunnies. We need God's help to sustain this effort. How can we live it? Well, you can get into the different forms of prayer, the sacraments. But that kind of keeps it simple and structured and very, very much down to earth. But I do think I'm a big fan, as most of you know, to have very short messages, right? My emails tend to be a paragraph. I started writing for this life set. They're demanding like 5 paragraphs. I don't like writing that much, but sometimes just a paragraph, just a quick thought, a quick concept. Like I've given a lot of talks to parents, to moms in particular, about parenting. I'm giving one on Tuesday, actually, in the city. And I always start my talk by saying, ladies, you will never be good moms unless you really love your husband. In fact, you'll be lousy moms if you don't really love your husband. And they say, Father, we didn't ask you to talk about that. We asked you to talk about parenting. I said, I am. I'm talking about parenting. The best gift you can give your kids is a great marriage. Simple concept. You walk away with that concept, the whole talk was worth it. There's no greater gift you can give your kids than a great marriage. And that's true. I think everyone here would admit that. I would say that about my own parents. And I tell these people that. I love my mom's cooking. I loved, the fact that my dad was engaged and he hit the ball with me in the backyard, and they were always putting me in the best schools and the best programs, and we had great vacations, and I lived in a nice house, and they were always taking care of. Okay, that's great, but if my mom and dad didn't love each other, what's the point? It means nothing. I wouldn't be stable as a person. I wouldn't be happy as a kid. There would be this restlessness. So simple concepts that you've thought out, that you've experienced. I'm communicating this with passion because I'm passionate about this concept. I just wrote a poem about, it's very simple, perfect parenting and providing. Is this a subtle form of hiding while the marriage is simply gliding? Why did I write that poem? Because this concept is on my mind and heart. Perfect parenting. I asked a woman the other day, what percentage of your day is spent thinking about your kids? No offense. She said 99.1%. I said, okay. What percentage of your day is spent thinking about your husband? Oh, Father, okay. About God. Well, perfect parenting. Oh, yeah. Providing. What percentage of the guy's day is spent thinking about his job? The marriage, this is gliding. But is this a form of hiding? This is the way my brain works. I get a concept. How can I communicate this? This is a problem in our culture. How can we communicate that? Find your way of communicating that. Live it, and then challenge other people to live it. So those are just some points from the heart. I really do believe, and not to say that everything I'm saying is a waste of time, but the time we spend in the chapel, the time we spend celebrating Mass and going to confession and praying the rosary and living virtue and being humble and living our vows of poverty, chastity, obedience, that's what makes us great communicators. And then we communicate that authenticity. And you're looking at some guys, Father Edward has been in the trenches his whole life in St. Louis and New York, and obedience calls him to do this, he just does it. That makes an impact on us. Father Scott was territorial director, then in Houston, and now he's in Philadelphia. And okay, whatever. And Father Donald was the section director for like 1,000 women in Chile for 20 years, and he's told to go to D.C. and then to New York, and it's beautiful. That's why they're so effective, because they're authentic. They're embracing God's will. This is important. I almost didn't want to get into the technicalities of public speaking, bullet points, and reading the crowd, and use of your hands, and all. Sure, we can get into this fluctuation of the voice and having the right pauses. But don't get so caught up in that you forget what matters, right? I am from the Midwest, Rob. And I am very proud of that. And one of the things in the Midwest we always say is don't beat around the bush. And be authentic and be true blue. Don't be fake. Don't be fake. Live it. Communicate it. You shouldn't have to put on your game face. So many people say, Father, knock it out of the park, or put on your game face. That doesn't resonate with me. Sorry. I'm not going to put on my game face. My game face is always on, I hope. I'm always trying to hit it out of the park. I'm not worried if I don't. I'm just trying my best, That's what we need to zero in on. So any one of you, I think, could have given that talk. Those are some points. I am using the media, as Father Jason said, but I would just say that public speaking for me is a way of life. It's docility to the Holy Spirit, whether it's I'm on the train, in a Starbucks, even in the bathroom in New York City. I've had some conversations, So I'm just saying, it can happen anywhere. And you have to be willing and ready to communicate the message of Christ with passion and conviction to that person God's put in front of you. Just the other day, I was riding back from Metro North, and this couple sat across from me from New Rochelle, and within a few seconds, I understood that this divorced woman was sitting next to her boyfriend. Okay, a little complicated, right? So listening, and I was praying and listening and trying to, and then suddenly we got into this really interesting conversation. And this woman just went back to Mass, and then she committed to start to go to confession. She's going to try to get her first marriage annulled. And then this other girl across the aisle was laughing and smiling, and okay, she's into this too. Let's see. So they got up, and she's from Michigan. She went to Michigan State, and she's engaged to a Catholic boyfriend, and she's not Catholic. So that was another 20 minutes. You got to think about RCIA, and okay. Was I worried about my form? Was I worried about my right hand going forward? Was I worried about the fluctuation of my voice? No. I was worried about Holy Spirit. What in the heck do you want me to tell this girl? I've got 10 minutes to get a message across. I don't want to blow it. Help me. That's what I'm worried about. That's what matters, right? To be docile to the Holy Spirit. So that's my talk. I don't know if any of you have any questions or any comments. I wanted to keep this short. Rob was, I know you like to keep a tight ship, so. So I don't know if there's any questions out there or any comments. I've heard BJ and Steve Oth speak quite a bit. They're amazing public speakers from the lay perspective. But again, they're both Regnum Christi. They're both in love for Christ. When they talk, they speak with passion, with conviction, with depth. It's beautiful. I mean, this room is filled with richness and wealth. And I'm really honored to come out, and hopefully that helped all of you. So thank you very much. Okay.